AITA for quitting on my friend because she won the lottery. I've been the sole babysitter for a friend since their child was born 3 years ago. I don't get paid supremely well, below minimum wage, $60 6 hours when minimum would be $84 6 hours, but it's still been agreeable because it's easy money and I can study while I'm there. My friend is also not particularly well off, or wasn't as you'll soon read, so I was throwing them a bone by being lenient on the wage. The husband is against babysitting and daycares. He was a victim of abuse this way, but he agreed because we're all friends and have been for a long time. My friend won $740,000 in the lottery 2 months ago and everything is more or less settled in. They bought 2 new 2019 cars, $60,000 plus vehicles, traveled a bit, etc. But they still paid me the same amount, which stung because I'm covering for them while they went to Cuba and Mexico. They can afford to pay me more, so I told them this. I want minimum wage, and they declined, saying it's too expensive. So I decided to no longer babysit for them. This means they'll have no babysitter because my friend's husband doesn't care for them. I know I'm not the asshole for quitting over a wage, but it's not entirely that. I'm half doing this vindictively because I know they're in a peculiar position where I'm their only option. But all I want is minimum wage. I'm not going to gouge them over this fact. Part of it might be jealousy, but if they can afford $120,000 plus in cars in the span of 2 months, they can afford an extra $24 per shift of my babysitting. AITA? NTA, but, this is the kind of spending that's going to make them bankrupt in under a year. The thing is, unless they are smart with their money, which it doesn't seem, the number is limited. They will run out. It's not like one of them got a new amazing job paying a lot more. Their finances are basically doomed. That said, all you're asking for is the minimum wage. You're not asking for $30 per hour now that they have money. It's not too expensive to buy brand new cars or go to Cuba, but childcare for their kids? Now that's just too much. No. You have a right to ask for the minimum when you were doing it for less as a favor because they literally didn't have it. Now they do. NTA. No judgment, but if it makes you feel better, a $740,000 lottery win is probably close to $400,000 after taxes. Between the cars and the trips, they have spent 1/3 of their money in 2 months. They will be broke by the end of the year. Edit. A lot of people are pointing out that OP could be Canadian and therefore wouldn't pay taxes on lottery winnings. This seems like it's probably the case, so we'll revise my previous statement. Between the cars and the trips, they have spent 1/6 of their money in 2 months. They will be broke by summer 2021. NTA. Asking to be paid minimum wage when your friend won the lottery is not too much to ask. NTA. Regular 6-hour shifts that allow a couple to not use a daycare is not babysitting, it's in-home childcare, and $10 per hour is a steal. Especially for an infant to 3-year-old. Quality childcare is really expensive. Even bad childcare is expensive. You did them a huge favor when they needed it. It's understandable to be miffed that they won't pay you something closer to market value for your work now that they can afford it. They're being cheap and ungrateful. NTA. You wouldn't have been an asshole even if you quit before they won the lottery. This business arrangement isn't working out for you anymore. NTA. It's not like you're trying to gouge them for everything they have. You asked them for minimum wage and they wouldn't even give you that. These people are not your friends. YTA. You've admitted yourself you are being partially vindictive. You say you are being paid below minimum wage, but I assume this is a casual cash-in-hand affair. If you were to make it official and be paid minimum wage, you would lose some of that $84 in taxes. Point being, you were happy to help them before, but after when you have admitted jealousy over you aren't happy to help now. If it went the other way and they had, say, lost a portion of their income, would you happily babysit for less than the $10? Their good lick should have no bearing on your original agreement. Of course you are well within your rights to say you no longer wish to work for below minimum wage, and that's fine, but it seems like this only became an issue for you after they won some money, and again you can't demand minimum wage if you are not paying taxes etc. on that wage. Thank you guys for the awards. NTA and lavish in the fact they'll be out of money ASAP. While $740,000 is a nice chunk of change, blowing $120,000 on cars is absolutely silly. Go find a better job. I'm shocked you only asked for minimum wage as well. Even prior to them winning, you were undervaluing yourself a lot. I am not sure where you are, but here there are entry-level jobs that pay at least double digits an hour to start. NTA, interesting that husband is against babysitters or daycares, and was fine with you caring for his child for below minimum wage. Look, you're a decent and trustworthy person. But who willfully underpays someone watching their kid? Does he also insult his servers at restaurants so they couldn't afford it? They can now. Ultimately, if they are buying new vehicles and taking vacations while underpaying you, they're taking advantage. I mean, a bonus is definitely something I would have expected, once you had provided childcare under minimum wage while they went on vacations. NTA, obviously, if this is a true story, seems way too clear-cut. No one in their right mind can say an additional $24 for an evening of freedom from their child is too much when they've just gone and blown 5,000 times that amount. Edit. I understand that it's not just an evening or one-off childcare arrangement. I was suggesting that an additional $24 for each occasion of said childcare is a drop in the ocean in comparison to the cost of the 2 cars. They could have paid OP's request of minimum wage for over 5,000 days of babysitting for the same cost of their cars. I believe that you're never TA for quitting a job, as long as you give however long a notice as is customary in your area country. That is, similarly, they're not TA for not wanting to pay you more. You were willing to do it for this, they were willing to pay you this, so it was fine. Now, you aren't willing to earn what they want to pay, and they aren't willing to pay what you want to earn, so naturally, you're parting ways, at least in the employment babysitting area. That's not asshole-ish anywhere. That's just the way the labor market works. And number X200B, BTW. If they try to guilt trip you into staying anyway, they're going straight into TA and choosing better entitled parent territory. ESH. Sort of. I was right about to say NTA until I read greater than. I'm half doing this vindictively because I know they're in a peculiar position where I'm their only option. Sorry, but if your heart is in the wrong place, you are being an asshole. I totally think quitting is the right decision given the circumstances, but don't do it to be vindictive. That's not good for anyone involved. But yes, your friends are totally being assholes about this. Who expects to pay anyone less than the criminally low minimum wage, especially when they can obviously afford to pay you minimum wage? NTA asking for minimum wage is pretty reasonable. You gave them a break when you knew they needed it. NTA. I am always so confused as to why people think paying a decent rate for a regular babysitter is so outlandish. You aren't paying the teenage girl down the street $20 to eat your snacks and text her boyfriend while your kid watches Frozen so you can go out for date night. You are paying for an adult to be the caretaker of your most valuable irreplaceable possession for most of their day, multiple days a week. Pay them accordingly. Info: while they traveled, were you watching their child 24/7 or? Holy yes, you're NTA, and you're doing the right thing by refusing to be taken advantage of. You helped them through what would otherwise have been an impossible situation, and they're repaying you by insisting that you allow them to take advantage. They'll call you every name in the book and claim that you let money change things, but the fact of the matter is that they're the ones being greedy, not you. AITA, their finances are none of your business. You agreed to work for a set price. Just because their finances change doesn't change the amount of work you do. $60 to hang out and study sounds fair to me. NTA, you should get at least minimum wage for your work. It sounds like they are blowing through the money too fast and are starting to recognize that. NTA, you've given them a deal for a long time, and it's one thing if you mutually agree to help each other out if finances are tight, but they now have the means to pay you minimum wage and should absolutely be doing that. Even by increasing your fees, they're still spending way less than they would on daycare, so they're still coming out ahead. NTA, whether or not you're feeling somewhat envious or vindictive on top of everything else doesn't really matter. You're entitled to a fair wage for services rendered. If they're not willing to pay that, and not even willing to give you a bonus for babysitting for them while they jet off on a luxury vacation, then you're right to quit. You can earn more elsewhere, and their unwillingness to raise your wage even a little bit now that their financial circumstances have changed makes it sound like they're happy to take advantage of you. All that said, don't be surprised when they come crawling back to you in a couple of weeks because they've realized just how hard it is to care for a 3-year-old without help. When that happens, tell them you'll be happy to come back at the rate you told them you wanted before you left. NTA, if they aren't offering you what you cost, then you aren't an asshole for quitting. Lottery or no. Certainly sounds like your friend has spent most of that money she won though. Am I crazy, or is $14 HRAS ton for babysitting? NTA, you're not obliged to be their babysitter and they'll be able to find another one pretty easily. I know I'm not the asshole, but I'm asking if I'm the asshole in an asshole subreddit. Also, even though I'm not an asshole, I'll admit that I do have some ulterior motives. As I was reading your post, I thought to myself, well, this all makes total sense. They're NTA, but then you put your foot in your mouth at the end there, so ESH. NTA, you should have been getting minimum wage to start with, and the fact they won't pay you that now after you've spent 3 years helping them out seems pretty rude. I'll vote NTA, but here's the thing. When you give favors or breaks to people, you do have to accept that you did just that, a favor, and they may not even realize it. I used to babysit for free for a friend because she was having a hard time. I was furious at Christmas when she bought her kids 2 video game systems and a bunch of other frivolous things for her and her BF stuff I could not afford. Problem was that I chose to not accept the payment, and that doesn't give me the right to decide how she spends. I ultimately stopped babysitting and she has filed bankruptcy. In the end, I was right about where her money should go, but it's not my life and I now have a pretty good financial situation. If you're doing a favor and being paid under the table, she has a right to not ask you to sit for her anymore, just as you have a right to ask for more money and decide not to continue if she refuses. So really kinda no one sucks, but because I think ultimately you are right about the spending and paying it forward to people who have helped you, I'm saying NTA. NTA, you should leave those a-holes when their money runs out, which is going to, quickly. Were you going to be alright with going back to the original amount? You are definitely entitled to minimum wage, so nta, but 750k is not a lot of money, definitely not enough to be changing or upgrading lifestyles. That's only a great start for a retirement or educational fund. NTA they spend 60,000 on a car but stinge on not even paying you minimum wage? What kind of assholes would do that? This is not about jealousy but treating you with some kind of decency and respect. NTA, they're taking advantage of you. Let it go. Think of it as a nice gift you gave them when they were struggling. People who can afford new cars can find high-quality daycare with things like security cameras for a parent's peace of mind, but then again, people who can afford nice cars usually provide for their children first. These folks are going to blow through this money so fast. If they won $740,000, they probably got about $600,000, at most, after taxes. So, they have already spent 20% of their earnings on cars. A couple more dumb purchases like that and they'll be broke again. They'll also have to pay more for a sitter now, since no one else would take your rates, and they won't be able to afford that for long. Don't go back to them when they're broke. You made the right decision. NTA. NTA. You were doing a favor based on their financial situation. Their financial situation changed and you asked for a change as well. They denied. Good on you for not settling. Enjoy your free time, or get a gig that pays way better. You are so NTA and the husband definitely needs therapy. If he's that insecure about the people who watch his kid, what is he gonna do when the kid goes to school? He needs serious help. But none of this is your fault or your problem. They don't treat you like a friend. They are using you because they can, and you shouldn't allow them to do that to you. It's probably best if you get out now. They don't respect your worth. Nta, you should be paid what you want. You didn't ask much just to pay minimum wage. They can afford it. I have a case for AITA, as unpopular as it may be. A gentle one, if that helps. First of all, you're not exactly flipping burgers. Sure, caring for a toddler can be extremely challenging, I'm in the thick of it, but you referred to your childcare role as easy money that also allows you to study. So the job provides more value and opportunity to you than just finances. Also, are you paying taxes, or are you being paid under the table? I'm assuming the latter. So, you're also making easy money without having to give any of it away. Once upon a time, you and your friends agreed on your fee. You can say you were being considerate of their financial situation, but perhaps they were also being understanding of your need to study while on the clock and supervising their child. So, the considerations could equal out. Even if we remove the "you agreed to this payment already" from the table, you should only be compensated per on the skill level you bring to the role, not on how your pair's financial situation has changed. Unless you just recently acquired your CPR Heimlich certification or received your master's in early education, your skill level remains the same. Sure, you always have the right to request more compensation, but you don't necessarily deserve it. It doesn't make you in a hole to want to part ways now that you'd like to be making more, but it does make you in a hole to admittedly be doing so vindictively. You're clearly jealous, not just possibly, and you're looking for your piece of the pie. Not a surprise. That's a pretty common instinctual reaction to situations such as this, wherein friends or family come into money. Suddenly, perspectives shift and things that were once okay are suddenly unacceptable, and personal loans resurface for discussion, and new loans are requested, and relationships falter. It's fair that you want a livable wage, absolutely, so seek it, but understand that 1. Your friends don't need to be the ones to pay it, regardless of what they now have in the bank. 2. You probably won't be able to study elsewhere, and 3. The IRS will be thrilled to have you on board. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to hear more of the best pose.